So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. Today is Tuesday, October the 26th, 2021, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. We'll give Michael just a minute to dial in. I'll invite you to go to the website, which is whyagain, WHYAGAIN.org. And you can click on the Start Here button in the upper left corner, or you can scroll down, and there's a bullseye in the middle of the page. You can click on that. They both take you to the same place, and it'll introduce you to the tools and how to get started. And there's lots of audios that you can listen to where we walk people through doing the worksheet. There's all of the tools for the workshops, whether it's communication or codependence or the mind shifters. There's just a worksheet for almost every workshop that we do, and they're all out there for free download in PDF format. There's posters like the 5 Smooth Stones and the Love Exchange, the Apology Tool, Gift for Giving, the commitments. So there are just lots and lots of tools out there. Put them to use in your life and see how they work. So Michael still hasn't gotten on. So I'll invite you to press 1 and give us your comments and questions and make it an interactive show. It makes it a whole lot easier than doing a monologue. Also on the website, I do have the lady Susan, she hosts the website on her server, and so she is volunteered to help me complete the cart. So hopefully that'll get going. And Michael, okay. So he just gave me a 1-minute finger there, so we'll just keep talking until he gets in. So also on the website is all of the archives. You can click on the microphone when you first open up the Why Again. Click on the microphone, it says Mindshifters Radio, and over on the right-hand side, you have the years from 2011 all the way up to 2021. And click on that, and it'll drop down, and you've got January to December underneath them, and then click on which month. And you can scroll down. There's a few days where I haven't gotten any notes. So if you listen to one of those shows that doesn't have a note, drop me an email at Jeanie, JEANIE, @whyagain.org, and give me your synopsis of what that show was about. So if you listen to one that has no notes, send me an email and let me know what that show's about, and I'll get those notes put in so everybody else. Makes it easier if somebody wants to do a search for a particular show or a particular topic and to be able to listen to that. I know we did a lot of worksheets, a lot of radio shows. Actually, Michael's going to talk about it today, is the healing crisis. And I put links in for yesterday's show to several radio shows where we've talked about the healing crisis, and you can click on those and re-listen to those sections for understanding of anything. All right, let me go check and see what's going on, if Michael's having technical difficulty or what's happening here. So I guess he's just having a little bit of trouble there. Also on the website, if you scroll down just a little bit, you've got the support line. You have the book. You can click on that. It's a picture of the book. If you click on it, it takes you to one. You can listen to the first 2 chapters that Michael started called The End of Suffering, Resurrecting the Original Aramaic Yeshua. You can listen to those audios. Then you can download the Why Is This Happening to Me Again book in English, Farsi, French, German, Russian, Spanish, Swedish, and there's a little bit of Thai, but it's not really the book. It's just the worksheets and an article. And so hopefully, I think we're working with Tipia to maybe get some of the book translated into Thai. And so hopefully that'll get going. But the book is out there. If you know somebody that speaks one of those other languages, be sure and let them know that it's out there. And actually the Spanish language, we have a whole page dedicated to Spanish because we have so many worksheets and so much already translated there. And so invite people to go to it. Welcome, Michael.
And thank you, dear heart. Actually, there's another piece to the Spanish puzzle that I haven't shared with you yet. But back, how many years ago? There was a gentleman who took the worksheet in our Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop and turned it into a book called Radical Forgiveness. And one of his students came to us, found out that we were the source of that work, and she speaks Spanish, and last year she had a Spanish forgiveness conference. And I just heard from her just the day before yesterday, or maybe it was even yesterday, that our interview in her Spanish conference last year was the most listened to of all the interviews, so she wondered if we would participate again this year, to which I replied, of course. And it's kind of cool that it ends up that our presentation, which Nene, as I understand, I haven't talked to Nene yet, but you've all met her on the show probably. Nene, who's a Spanish-speaking young lady or bilingual, who has actually, we've done co-presentations before where I did the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop in English and she did it in Spanish. And so she's going to translate that, and it's going to be on 11/11. 21, 11/11. And if you recognize the 11/11 date, that's Armistice Day. Ostensibly the day peace was declared. And at 11/11, we'll be doing a presentation. So we'll make sure to keep you posted on that and have links on the website as that comes together. We just set it up yesterday. She had scheduled it for that date without even realizing it was Armistice Day. That's going to be the beginning of that conference, and we're going to be the keynote speaker at that particular juncture. And so we talked about it, and it's like, well, let's make it that so you won't have to put this on your calendar. Probably you'll remember that at 11:11 a.m. on 11/11/21, we'll be doing a presentation on forgiveness, which will be translated both into English, or I'll be speaking it in English, and Nene, if that all comes together, and I haven't heard back yet, we'll be speaking it in Spanish. So that'll be pretty cool. And I think we've actually got the workshop that we did last year for them with the presentation. It was an interview style thing on the website, don't we, Jeannie?
I don't know.
I think we put that on the website. We'll have to check and see, and if not, we'll get a copy of it and get it on the website. So anyway, that's kind of cool and exciting.
And move your microphone just a hair. It's kind of popping.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
I'm looking on the Spanish page now. Is that with Carmen?
Carmen
Prestopino?
Yeah. Prestopino.
Yeah, it's on the website.
Cool.
It's on the website.
So if anybody wants to look at that.
Capsule. I don't think she gave us the whole thing because it says here's a capsule of that interview.
Okay, well, we'll have to get the whole interview, but maybe we can just put that in the link to that in the notes today.
Yeah,
I hear that voice in the background. I know him.
Yeah, it's like a 50-second. So she must not have given us the whole video.
Oh,
it's a 50-second introduction.
Okay, I'll drop her a note and ask her for the whole video. So cool. Awesome. So that'll be cool. 11/11 at 11/11/21. We'll be talking about this whole forgiveness process once again, and aside from letting people know if there's anyone who speaks any of the languages that the book is on the website free that they can download and read it. If you know anyone that might be willing to volunteer to translate and bring this work into any other language. You know, our goal ultimately is every mind, heart, and being on the planet. And I'm not sure. At last thought, it seems to me I saw something that said there were about, I don't know, something like 260 different languages. So we've only got, you know, maybe 250 to go to have it translated into so that anybody on the planet can read it, which would be pretty cool. But if you happen to know someone that would be willing and you know is service oriented and wants to do something to support humanity, then we invite you to check with them and see if it'd be something you'd be willing to do. And in the meantime, I'm going to jump right into Healing Crisis. We're going to start on Chapter 20. And why is this happening to me again? Chapter 20 of 24 chapters. We've been reading a little bit every day. If you haven't been part of the show, if you're new to it, and if you're following along, we're going to start on page 135 on Healing Crisis. And the book, you know, is out of print, so we can't sell you a copy, much as we'd like to. However, you can go to Amazon or eBay and find copies of it for a couple bucks, $3, $4, $5. I don't know what they're running now. I know at one point they were up to $7. It's just kind of embarrassing. But anyway, pardon me. I shouldn't say it's embarrassing. That's projection. Brings up some embarrassment for me that my book sometimes sells for $2 on the internet. But anyway, it's out there. That's the important thing. And you can go to our website, whyagain.org, and you can download it free in any of those languages that Jean said. So you'll recall that yesterday we talked to Richard about, we told him we had some good news and some bad news. And I gave him the good news. And the good news is that, you know, Richard was under distress. And he's like, well, shouldn't I be feeling better? What's going on here? And my input was that the good news is that the reason for his distress was that it was a new level of empowerment. And I offered him the thought that your pain signals the opportunity to be aware of patterns that do not work and heal them. And that's the good news. You know, each time you hit a new level of vitality, and, you know, take a look at your efforts to reduce your vitality. People say, oh, you know, I go out and I work out to increase my vitality, and then they go and drink a fifth of scotch at night. Or they go to, any one of the fast food places that serve flavored fat, salt, and sugar on their menu. They put it in all kinds of, you know, forms on the menu, but if you look at the fat, salt, and sugar content, virtually every one of those fast food restaurants, I mean, all of them, it's just a different ratio of fat, salt, and sugar with a little bit of protein or a lot of chemicals thrown in. There's an interesting video called Super Size Me, if you haven't seen it. It's pretty powerful. Actually, this guy, Spurgeon, did some pretty neat stuff. He's Super Size Me is the first thing he did, and he was listening to a news report where a woman was suing McDonald's because she got fat on their food. And he heard a news report where McDonald's was saying, oh, our food is healthy and balanced. So he was a vegetarian, very healthy person. He made a commitment to do a movie, and the movie was about eating at McDonald's. And he set up for 30 days that he would eat nothing but McDonald's. And if, when he placed an order, the salesperson said, would you like to supersize that? Then he would have to supersize it, and he'd have to eat it all. 30 days. Now, this is a trim young man who's a vegetarian. He had, if I remember correctly, it was either 2 or maybe it was 3 doctors that he went to and did all his blood work and all the stats that showed how healthy he was. And then he went on this supersize me kick. At one point in the movie, it shows him trying to eat it, and he literally pukes because his body's so rejecting this so-called balanced, healthy food. And if I remember correctly, he had to do this for 30 days. That was his commitment. And it took him, if I remember correctly, something like 2 years to get his stats back to healthy again. medically. And along about day 22 or 25, something like that, we should watch that movie again. Your dad would probably enjoy it, Jeannie. Anyway, along around day 25 or so, one of the medical doctors gave him the number for the emergency room, and he said, "You're going to need this because you're going to have a heart attack, and I quit. If you keep doing this, I will not be part of it." He was in such bad shape. So if you say you want to raise your vitality, but that's what you're eating, stop kidding yourself. You're driving your vitality into the ground. And the reason why people are driven to drive their vitality into the ground is so they don't have to feel and they don't have to deal with what they're doing to themselves. Now, I don't care whether it's, fast food or, unless you go into restaurants. And it's kind of interesting that we live in a country where if you go to a restaurant, if you actually want nutrition, one of the first questions you need to ask is, do you have any food with nutrition in it? Because most food is so processed, and processing means basically we dissect this product, whatever it is, and we take the nutrition out of it, because nutrition in food and vitality in food makes it decay and rot. It digests itself if there's any vitality in it. But if you take all of that out of it, you can put it on a shelf and, the rats won't even touch it. Months, years later, it'll still be intact. So processing means, in essence, we take most of the vitamins, we take the enzymes, we take the minerals, and these are things that are really valuable. So they take them and they sell them to the pig farmers, because the pig farmers know that if they want their pigs to reproduce and they want, longevity out of their pigs, and they don't want to have big vet bills, they have to have nutrients, enzymes, minerals. So you steal that from the food and you sell it once, and then you get Madison Avenue to promote it as something that builds bodies in 12 ways. And you call it fortified, which means, in essence, a good metaphor for fortified foods is we stripped that guy over there naked and stole all of his clothes, and then we gave him back his socks, and we call him fortified. That's what fortified. If you see fortified food, you're seeing food that's virtually nutrition-free in at least 95% of the cases. So you go into a restaurant and you have to ask if they have any nutrition in their food or food with nutrition in it. And or if you go to the grocery store, in the outer edges where they have, those green things that a lot of people don't want to touch, where there's actually nutrition and phytochemicals that keep people healthy, that a lot of people won't even put in their mouths. That's how to drive vitality into the ground, so you don't have to feel and you don't have to deal with your life. Now, right now, if we look at the amount of rage that's floating through our society, I could just about guarantee you that if we went to the homes of 75% of those ragers that are floating around in our country right now, violating everything that has to do with human decency, I would guarantee we could go back to their homes. We'd find the empty McDonald's bags. We'd find alcohol bottles. We'd find nicotine. We'd find caffeine. We'd find drugs out the wazoo, legal and illegal. I guarantee you. Because when hostility isn't enough to keep pain shut down, that's the first signal that there's something going on inside that needs to be dealt with. And if hostility isn't a deep enough drug, then people go and find another drug to assist. Actually, there's an interesting film out there. It's a little bit risque because it's about sexual addiction. It's called Thank You for Sharing. If you want to see this they captured this so beautifully. I don't know if they did it purposely or not. But it's a story about addiction and recovering from addiction. And there's several people who are in different addiction programs in the movie. So it's a story format, characters. And of the several people who are in the film, several of them are actively dealing with their addiction and trying to stay on the wagon, and and different types of addictions. And you watch, and it's just a perfect picture of the whole process of how we create diseases in our culture, and some openings for how to begin healing. There's some powerful cues as to what moves in the direction of healing. But you watch each person who's fairly happy with everybody, everybody else in the movie, until another person begins to violate the goal they have for them. There's a man and his father, there's a husband and a wife, there's two people who just are introduced to each other, there's a sponsor working with one of the new recruits into the 12-step program. In each case, they're all quite happy with everybody as long as everybody is fulfilling the goals they have. I mean, it captures it so perfectly. And then you watch as each of them, there's another person violating a goal, a more important goal, and you watch their stress go up as people violate the goals they hold for them, or they violate the goals they hold for themselves. And then you watch each of them, in order to anesthetize against the increasing resonance of pain, they turn to rage, every one of them. And when the rage, and remember that rage is not a feeling, anger is not a feeling, anger is a drug. It's an internally produced drug that anesthetizes against feeling. So in each case, somebody's violating the goals, their stress goes up, they're in pain, they try to avoid their pain, and they use rage as the drug to anesthetize against it, and when the rage isn't enough, every one of them falls off the wagon and turns to drugs, falls back into their pattern of drugging themselves. It's powerful. Powerful watch. When you've got those brain cells, get a hold of that movie. Thank you for sharing, and watch that. And there's another interesting film that we just ran across. We just watched it the last couple nights on Netflix, and let's see. Jean, do you remember the name of it offhand?
Madam C.J. Walker?
I know it's about Madam. Yeah, but that was the name of it. It was kind of like a subtitle. I thought I'd written it down here. In any event, I hear you typing, so I'm sure you're looking for it. But it's a perfect picture of somebody who is in a community where people are oppressed. Self-made, yeah. Powerful on Netflix. I don't know, it might even be on YouTube free, I don't know. But anyway, a woman who's in a community where women are traditionally blasted into the ground as people, are not honored as human beings. And then she's African American, so not very well honored in this white supremacist society. And it's a true story. I mean, it's right there. And pardon me for the pun, black and white. It's just outrageous. In any event, it's a beautiful example. As I watched it, it's like, what a powerful example of dealing with thought disorders. It's like this woman had the tools of forgiveness, and you watch how powerfully she fights her demons, how she deals with her thought disorders that would drive her right into the ground. And it's a great example of, it's not the world of oppression that shuts us down. It's the thought disorders in our minds with which we shut ourselves down. And this woman, it's a true story, back, late 1800s, and she is the first female African-American self-made millionaire in the country. And she decided, after being really raked over the coals and put down as an ugly black woman, that she wanted to raise black women up and make them beautiful. And she created a line of cosmetics and became a millionaire. And it gives one of the things I was saying to Jeannie last night. It's a two-part or three-part thing on Netflix. We were watching the last part last night, and you just watch issue after issue that she comes across, and very few people, who work a 9 to 5 and never really do accomplishment in something like the business world as this woman does. People will never understand what it takes, what kind of challenges one runs into, what kind of things one has to deal with. But it's a powerful look at that. And this woman, I mean, if you can imagine, as a black woman in the 1800s who decided she's going to become as successful as Rockefeller. And she actually ends up buying a house next door to John D. Rockefeller, who lives first black woman to move into that community. And there's an interesting scene in it, and I don't know whether it's accurate or not, but she walks over to her neighbor, Mr. Rockefeller, and he very graciously welcomes her, which I thought was pretty cool, and welcomed her to the neighborhood. I thought that was very powerful back in that time frame. But it's a really good example of one, if you're going to really stand up and do something meaningful in the world, the kind of things that will come along to knock it down. And two, the kind of thought disorders that she was brought up with in this culture, in her community, in her family system, that at any moment she could have just succumbed to if she hadn't chosen to change her mind. And you'd watch her time after time after time change her mind and raise herself up. It's pretty powerful. So, Richard asked me the question when I talk about the bad news that you're going to get to look at and have to deal with, those layers of things that you haven't dealt with. He puts forward, well, shouldn't my new level of empowerment make me feel better? And I offered back to him, definitely. But blocks to empowerment, being actualized in your life, the blocks to that happening, they must surface and heal. Everything unlike the state you want to exist in. Everything like the high, holy, wondrous, wonderful state that you need to dream about. You got to stop blaming everybody else for it, and you got to choose to change the thought disorders that keep you out of that high, happy, healthy, holy state that you want to live in. You can't keep blaming the world for it if you're ever going to live there. So that means you're going to have to deal with healing crisis. And so now we get into the bad news. And that's at the the top of page 135. If you're following us, the chapter on healing crisis, chapter 20. Richard, the bad news is, rather than run away from pain, we need to face it. Escape is not part of the process. Now, if you think that taking the geographic cure, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. How many have ever taken the geographic cure where you go to the other side of the country, where people will be different, and the person that picks you up at the airport finishes the sentence that the person that dropped you off started? Why does that happen? How is that possible? How do they know what to say to us? Because whatever the issues are that we hold in our hearts, remember Yeshua didn't say, take care of the other guy and fix the other guy, for out of them are the issues of life. He said, take care of your own heart. And that word heart means, in the Aramaic language, means your own unconscious. Take care of that which you've denied and dissociated from and projected into your brain's image of everyone else. For out of it, he says, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. Every issue that keeps you from the high, happy, healthy, holy life that you want to live, that wondrous being that you want to express it, every issue is in your heart. It's not in your community. It's not in your family. It's not in your culture. It's not in your world. It's in your heart. And you got to stop pretending that you're a victim and that it's about somebody else. And it means you're going to get to deal with a lot of thought disorders. So again, the bad news, which is really good news when you understand it, rather than run away from pain, we need to face it. Escape is not part of the process. Reaching new levels of empowerment, as you have, also gives you the strength to delve into new depths of your healing, which is not always Dr. Feelgood. And again, if you haven't been with us through this year, January 1st, we started the book, pick up a copy of it. I mean, go to the website and download it free. I'm not saying buy a copy of it, but again, for a couple of bucks, you can buy it on Amazon or eBay. And read it and read it and read it. There's one author who's in the quote-unquote self-help field. I think he's authored 30-some books. His review on Amazon was, "This is the best book I have ever read." I was pretty honored to hear that from somebody like that. And all it is a conversation, a very real life conversation about taking the teachings of this man Yeshua from 2,000 years ago in the Aramaic language and bringing it forward into the English language so one understands what he taught about how to deal with your life. The man was not a theologian. He was a psychologist. He was not a theologian. He was a physicist. He was not a theologian. He was a geneticist. He was not a theologian. He was a physiologist. And when you bring that into real practical understanding and you use the tools, life transforms. But you can't get away with not dealing with what's inside yourself. It's an inside job. Again, I mentioned it yesterday. Pogo had the answer. We have met the enemy, and the enemy is us. You feel good. As you recognize the next level of your work, it's important to remember the cosmic grease, which is willingness. Moving into the release mode, as you have, Richard, means old energies from the past are felt as though they are present moment experiences, and they are not. So here's what happens. When some old, and old means it might have happened when you were 2, or it might have been happened when you were 2 months in the womb, or it might have happened 20 generations ago. Those energetic patterns are carried within us. And what happens when we don't really want to honor the truth and we want to keep finding somebody at fault for the state we're unconsciously choosing to be in, which means we're deciding to be in. We want to find, we're always puking on somebody because they bring states up in us that we don't want to look at. Since is the perceptual mind massages the internal energies to push them into our mind's image, our mind's hallucinated picture of someone else. And since we saw them do it to us, we really believe they did it to us. But that's all total and complete projection. And that means, and again, this is more of the good news, things seem to be the darkest at those moments because you're accessing new depths. So remember that when the darkness comes, if you're doing your work, when the darkness comes, it is one of the deepest blessings you could get because now you're getting to bring light to your darkness and process through those parts of your mind. Now, if you watch the film we were just talking about with this African-American woman, and you look at the thought disorders she needs to work through, and then you realize that we all live in a world that is so filled with thought disorders. And what are thought disorders? Thought disorders are energetic patterns within our minds that are not based in love. Now, oftentimes in an intensive, I'll be up on the board and I'll draw 2 little stick men and then point them down to a 3rd stick man. The 3rd stick man is the child, and the 2 others are the parents, mom and dad. And then I'll ask people, do an assessment. Just play along with me here. If 10 was a life that was lived in pure joy and aliveness and excitement and vitality and love, That would be an assessment that would put somebody at a 10. And if life was pain and rage and fear and guilt and hostility and attack and viciousness and trauma, that would be a 1. If you were to do an assessment of both of your parents, Mom, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would she be? Dad, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would she be? And then if you looked at, we drew 2 more stick men over each of those mom and dad figures. So now we're looking at grandma and grandpa on both sides. If you look at mom's grandmother and grandfather on a scale of 1 to 10, from what you know of them, where would they be? And if you look at dad's grandparents, where would they be? And then let's go back one more generation. Let's look at the grandparents' parents. And now there are 8 more. You fill those numbers out on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'll say I've done that, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times, and the average that I usually get, I'll just have the audience shout out, so your mother was at a 10, and your mother was at a 3, and your mother was at a -6, ouch. Your mother was at a 5, your father was at a 2, your father was at a 9, your father was at 15. Okay, so then we average that out, and over the years, the average that has come up, the bottom line when we do that, is usually about a 4. So if you look at your bloodline at a 4, then here's what you know. The way that you feel on a day-to-day basis, averaged over your lifetime, will be about a 4. There'll be moments where there'll be a 10. Oh, peak experience. Wow, this is so cool. And there'll be moments maybe where you'll be in the pit at a -20. Your job, should you choose to accept it, and this tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds, your job is to go in and face all of the darkness of your generations and of your culture and process it, recognizing that the place where it's stored is in your physiology. It's in your body-mind unit. That's where it's stored. That's where it plays out. And that, when we're down at a 1 or a 2 or a 3, is where our death comes from. Remember, there's a poem in the book, Each moment of love, each moment of giving, each moment of joy is a moment of living. Each moment of anger, each moment of lying, each moment of resentment is a moment of dying. All our moments add together, like the digits in a sum, and the answer tells us plainly whether our life or our death shall come. All death is suicide. Do you want the ultimate reward? The ultimate reward isn't going to some happy, holy place after you die. The ultimate reward, if you listen to Yeshua, you go read his words in Revelations, and he says this. He isn't talking about, we're going to send you to some place called heaven, and then you're going to have fun. He says, you do your work, you overcome, and here's what will happen. You will become a pillar in the temple. Now, not some building with a purple curtain, but your temple is your body. A pillar, that means you'll be fixed in your body. You will not taste of the second death. The first death is when being dies in your experience, and you experience yourself as something other than love. And that self that has that experience is what needs to be removed from the structure. You remember Yeshua said, in order for you to live, you've got to die. He wasn't saying go out and kill yourself. He was saying the self you think you are has to be forgiven, has to be removed from your mind before there's room for the self that you are to come forward into expression through your physiology. Takes a great deal of discipline to say, okay, I'm going to do that process. And if you do it, you'll be one of, so far in history, because the tools have been so obscure, we can maybe count, maybe on our two hands, the number of people who've actually done that. That's a big piece of work. And that's what we're inviting Richard to do. That's what we're inviting you to do. So things seem to be darkest because you're accessing new depths, hidden perhaps for years, maybe even for generations. This part of your work is called the healing crisis. Healing crisis is usually experienced on 3 levels. And seeing as how we've only got about 20 minutes left, I'm going to stop the conversation right here. We'll move into the 3 levels tomorrow, and I'm going to check in on the phone lines and see if anybody out there has a hand up in the phone queue or if anything's happening in the chat room. Miss Jeannie?
No, it is all quiet. There's just sitting and listening, I suppose.
Well, then let's invite somebody to put a hand up. Is this all making sense? Is this fitting? Is there anybody who needs support in determining what needs to happen to move through a layer that maybe you're facing right now, maybe you're stuck in, maybe you think it can't be done? When I watched this film that we were just talking about with this African American woman, it was just like, wow, what a powerhouse this woman was. I mean, she just knocked out thought disorder after thought disorder after thought disorder, in the business realm with competition, in relationship with her husband, in relationship with her daughter, in relationship with investors, in relationship with employees. I mean, she had to face it all. And she became a self-made millionaire back in the 1800s. Sadly, and I don't know, Jeannie, I know you looked up the year that she passed. If I remember correctly, it was 1919, but I don't know whether it said how many years she'd been circling the Earth when she passed. But I suspect because she didn't have the tools with which to process through the multitude of assaults and thought disorders that she confronted, she passed quite early. I don't know. My impression would be that she was maybe in her 60s. Early 60s. Did you 52. See that information when you?
She was
52.
52. Yeah.
52.
5'2". Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, she didn't have tools. She just stood forward and said, "I'm going to change my life. I'm not going to succumb to this insanity." And I mean, she worked through issue after issue after issue after issue, without much support. And, yeah, it killed her.
And she gave a lot away. I mean, even though she was a millionaire, like she funded black women to go to college. She funded the Black YMCA, and a lot of charities. She gave her wealth to a lot of people.
Yeah, she was amazing. Somebody to admire. Boy, she was just an amazing lady. And she go ahead.
I was just looking. Her early life had such hardships. She was orphaned at 6 years old. She was married at 14. Had her daughter.
Had her first child
when she was like 15. She was widowed at 20. I mean, so she went through a lot.
Yeah, pretty amazing. But to just see the example of how this woman just stuck to the higher path and kept changing her mind. Everything based in hostility or fear that came up, everything that that the average person uses to hold themselves back, she just worked through it and worked through it. Would have been nice to have seen her have the tools beyond just her innate knowledge and her innate intelligence and wisdom and guidance that took her through it. Would have been nice to have seen her have some tools and support to go well beyond the age of 52. Because that's the promise. To he that overcomes, he or she will not taste of the second death. They will become a pillar in the temple and shall go out no more. That's a pretty clear promise that we're going to stop killing ourselves. And my offering is that all death is suicide. We do it to ourselves. And, it doesn't matter where you're at in the process. If you're just at the very beginning, or you're at the precipice, ready just 1 inch away from stepping off the cliff into death. Doesn't matter. At any given moment, instead of taking a step forward into the disintegrative energies that create death, you chose to step back a step. Then you would be creating the youthing of your energy form and your energy field and the healing of your energy field. Your energy field reflects as a sum total of what integrative and what disintegrative energies, what things based in love and what things based in hostility and fear are in you and in your genes. And as you start to dig up, as you start to use the tools and dig into the generational traumas, you literally change your genetic structure. It's your birthright to do that. Now, I know there are people out there in the expert profession that will say, oh, you can't change your genes. Hogwash. Just not true. They used to say you couldn't. I mean, for decades, the belief was, and I'm talking about all the experts, all everybody. Oh, brain cells, they don't regenerate. Once they die, you've lost them. And now there's a whole field of neurogenesis. And they know that brain cells can be strengthened and rebuilt, and you can literally develop and grow new brain cells. And I'm talking now about the structure, not brain cells in terms of this work where we talk about contents of the mind building brain cells. So it's our birthright to live a life key to thoughts reflected as feelings that are based in love. And if we're not experiencing that, we are locked in a thought disorder. Forgiveness unlocks the generational thought disorders and gives us the opportunity to do the not-so-Dr. Feel-Good process of working through those things. That's what we're here to support. And we've got about 15 minutes left, or 13 minutes, something like that. So I'm going to invite once again, if you're out there, this is now supposed to be a dialogue, not a monologue. So if you have a thought for us, if you have a question, if you have an issue you could use some support with, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, if you're listening to someplace we're syndicated, oh, great. Let me just finish the thought that you can dial into 563-999, 563-999-3581. You dial that number, you're listening to the show, push 1, and that raises a hand, and let's talk to our caller.
It is area code 541. I believe it's Celinda. You're on the air.
Well, hey there, young lady. Have you got? Well, it's good to hear your voice. You must have gotten my call.
I certainly did. I was just too late.
Well, we haven't heard your
speech. I didn't. Pardon?
Well, that's cool. We just had not heard your sweet voice in a while, so I thought I'd touch in and say hello. And so I'm glad that you're calling. How do you be? What's exciting in your world?
It hasn't been so sweet sometimes because I'm facing my alligators.
You mean you've been getting opportunities to learn forgiveness? Life is still doing that for you? How beautiful.
Well, I'm glad at this age that it is.
For sure.
Some of us are a little more resistant than others, and some of us are a little more frayed around the edges, so it takes us a longer time in our process.
Michelle, that sometimes runs the switchboard, oftentimes refers to herself as the most willing, resistant person she knows.
I love that.
Yeah, I thought that was cute
well,
when she came up with that.
Well, tell her I've joined her family.
Cool.
My biggest challenge that I'm dealing with at the moment is the realization that I basically had been trained and have trained myself when at that junction point where then I took on that ancestral training and incorporated it into myself and
right.
operated benefited from it is discipline. You know, the ability, literally the ability and the perception that I could go through the slough of whatever it was, like the black lady you talked about, and that I might go through it, Michael and Jeannie, but I couldn't go through it with peace of mind. I couldn't go through it envisioning the outcome I wanted. It was like I have this gloom and doom cloud over my head that always says, well, I'll imagine the worst and then it'll protect me. I'll imagine the worst and hope for the best. Well,
so my offering is, that's a thought disorder. That's just a generational thought disorder. So somebody taught you, well, if you imagine the best and things get better, then you're okay. That's actually kind of, there's a whole philosophy based in think the worst, and then you can't have a worse day than you started out with. And actually, one of the guys that, and I forget which one, used to be a well-known philosopher, used to say that, well, everybody, every day, should start out eating a toad, and then nothing worse will happen in their day. That was his prescription, literally, was his prescription for how to have a good day. So those, I offer that whole philosophy as that whole philosophy is a whole huge thought disorder. Throw it out, young lady. Think the best, because your thinking leads where your creation's going.
Right. And
so think the best. Think the best, and when something less than the best comes up, forgive it. And just what we're talking to Richard about at this point. Think the highest, holiest, most wondrous. Visualize yourself in that most wondrous place. And then what will start to happen is the thorns that are in your flesh, you know, as Paul described it, the thorns in his flesh, will start to pop open. And you get to throw them off. And you get to create that kind of a day. But if you keep thinking the worst, then your creative process is stuck in the worst, because our thinking is what ties and brings forward our creative process.
So
if you go to the opening words in the book of John, it says, it doesn't say in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. It says in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. It literally becomes our chemical, so-called chemical experience. So keep it high and happy and holy, and then process whatever comes up in response to it.
And what you were saying about that philosopher, I mean, this is all a grid that is forming for me. What you're saying, and then, you know, I mentioned to you, I think before, to you and Jeannie, that my favorite toy as a child was a kaleidoscope. And the thing that fascinates me about the kaleidoscope is that it's all the same rocks in there, crystals, whatever. It's all the same stuff. That never changes. But all you need to do is take one little twist, and you have a whole different pattern in front of you.
Good metaphor.
And I love that. So I keep thinking, okay, Celinda, you are a kaleidoscope. And I was thinking when you said about the gentleman who had the dark philosophy of life, how many of our philosophers have committed suicide?
Oh, yeah. Crazy.
You know, Keith Kierkegaard, and I think Sartre, and I can't remember all of them. But it's, like you say, it's insane. And I'm really, I'm reaching out. I have you and Jeannie's Aramaic gospel work as an anchor. I have my other spiritual anchors, and it's like what I'm creating now in my golden years, if you want to talk it that way, is that I am creating a grid for myself that I see as I'm actually creating my own support grid.
Sweet. That's what each of us has to do. And that's the power of community. We don't have to do it on our own.
Right.
And if we have thought disorders that we do have to do it on our own, that's going to be a major issue to work through. And if you watch that movie that we were talking about, Self-Made, it's on Netflix, you'll see that one of her thought disorders is she has to do it on her own, and she can't count on anybody. And, of course, if one lives in a world energetically where, I have to do it on my own and I can't count on anybody, if somebody shows up that you can count on, you'll find a way to puke on them. Your mind will find a way to take some of your pain, project into your brain image to them, and make a piece of crap out of them. Because your self-fulfilling prophecy is, I have to do it on my own. And anybody that shows up that is really, truly there as real, true, honest-to-God, 100% support, the mind will have to find a way to puke on, degrade, get rid of them, or shut them up so that you can fulfill the prophecy. You have to do it on your own. And it's just another lie. It's just another thought disorder to be forgiven, to be healed.
May I share with you real quick the sweatshirt, the emotional sweatshirt or psychological sweatshirt that I grew up with?
Go for it.
And that was, I have to do it on my own. And the back said, and I can't do it on my own.
Wow, that's a catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And so now, that is so intimately linked to trust.
So I would support you changing the writing on the shirt. The back of the shirt is actually fairly accurate, not 100%. I think it's possible that somebody could maybe perhaps do it on their own, but I'd make that, it's not likely I'll do it on my own. And the front of it is, I have all the support that I need every time I turn around to do it.
Well, what I'm realizing, I don't care. It doesn't matter anymore whether there's no one out there to support me, because I always have someone out there support me. Always. It is always there. It's always as close as my heartbeat, is what you like to say.
No.
And so how can I be alone? I can't.
I'm with you on that.
And blessings to you and Jeannie, and I'll probably text you a little message. I wanted to ask you a question that I don't want on the radio show, but anyway, I really appreciate your call. We've been very, very busy and trying with this house-sitting position we have. And so the times when I would love to listen to the show, I'm involved in things that are necessary to do. But thank you that we have the downloads. How sweet, and where we can listen to the programs. That really helps.
There's a really powerful piece of music that you might want to give a quick listen to on YouTube. It's an America's Got Talent performance by a man named Father Ray Kelly, and it's just extremely powerful. The song that he sings, and the song is Everybody Hurts. Everybody Hurts. And it's powerful. And the end of the song, and he just sings it so beautifully. He gets a standing ovation and all, but the end of it is, you're not, and the way this guy sings is so sweet. And it offers the thought, you're not alone. Powerful. So give it a listen, and thank you. Nice to hear your voice. Appreciate you responding to my call. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's an awesome opportunity to get to be with you. I've just looked up this song with Everybody Hurts. There have been 16,423,000 views of it. It's a pretty awesome piece of music, so touch into it. It's very heartwarming. And have a blessed day, the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.